Welcome everyone to this session of AAC in the Cloud. We're glad to have you here. As a quick reminder, you can check in the lobby that's in our Slack chat right now for some additional opportunities. We have lightning talks that'll be going on this evening, as well as there's a hack night event that'll be happening. So check in the lobby if you have an interest in those and would like some more information. This session is going to be by Chloe Rothschild and Lydia Wayman. And their topic is AAC and verbal individuals and how AAC impacted their lives. They have a very unique story and perspective to share, so we will turn the time over to them.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Wayman, so I will be speaking for the first half, and then Chloe will do for the second half. The screen you're looking at is actually taken from a screenshot on my iPad. Thank you for being with us. Like I said, my name is Lydia, and Chloe and I are young adults with autism, as well as very good friends. We first met 8 years ago when Chloe emailed me because she read something on my blog, and she said that she thought we would be great friends. So that's an understatement to say that she was right about that. The photo in the center, I have the lacy shirt on and Chloe has the yellow shirt on. That was the first time we actually got to meet in person in the summer of 2013 when Chloe came to Pittsburgh for a conference. I went to visit her 5 hours away on her 21st birthday, which we spent in Cedar Point. We have a lot of similar interests, especially Disney, and over the years, we've experienced similar challenges, like learning to live with chronic health issues. We also share a mission to educate others about autism from our own perspectives. We hope that at least one thing one of us shares from our journeys will remind you of somebody you know, and that you'll think about them in a new way. More than anything, we hope you'll see why it's so important that everyone is given every chance to communicate. So just wait till you hear how much we have to say. And keep in mind, the reason you're here listening to us is because AAC has given us the voice to share our stories. Before I tell you about my work as an advocate, I just want to tell you a few things to get to know me a little bit. My interests include cats, art, writing and editing, and Disney. I also love being an aunt to my 2-year-old niece and my 5-year-old nephew. It's been a long journey to get to this point, but I now live in my own apartment with daily support. I have autism and mitochondrial disease. So mito is a genetic condition, tends to be progressive. It can look very different in different people. To give you an idea of what it means for me, I've had some health issues since I was very young, like type 1 diabetes since the age of 3. So I have an insulin pump, and I'm also connected to half a dozen other lines at any time. So I have an ostomy and a feeding tube and IVs that run 24 hours a day. If you hear something beeping, don't worry about your phone. It's probably one of my pumps. It sounds funny, but it's true. So I'll shut it up if it beeps. Another thing to know is that the way I present is by typing my words and reading them. So I apologize if my voice gets raspy as we go. It just does that some days, and it wears out kind of quickly. I hope my story will help you understand why a child with a college-level vocabulary might still be suffering in silence, what that felt like, and how much AAC has changed my life. I am a writer, editor, and autistic advocate. I started advocating in 2009 by writing my blog, which is called Autistic Speaks. And since then, I've written for magazines, books, websites. I've presented locally and at national autism conferences, served on panels and review committees for studies and things like that, helped to write the curriculum for a program to teach doctors about patients with autism. Been featured in the Wall Street Journal and Good Morning America, and I can't wait to see what comes next. I'm sorry, my paper is making noise. Okay. I was born in 1987, which makes me 30. It was a few years before doctors and teachers began to recognize autism in children like me. I had intense sensory issues, so loud noises and sensitivity to touch, and especially my feeding aversion were recognized very early. I only ate about 10 foods until I was 8 or 9 years old. I got frustrated very easily, and especially when I was younger, I would sometimes self-injure. I didn't make good eye contact. I often went, my parents would call it into Lydia land. So I would withdraw and zone out, kind of like you see in the top photos here. At the time, my parents didn't know why I behaved the way I did. It was concerning enough to them that my mom mentioned it to the pediatrician. And they would tell her like that kids don't starve themselves, just let me get hungry enough and I would eat, which I wouldn't have. And thankfully, because I had diabetes, that wasn't an option. They said that I was being stubborn. I was reading, adding, subtracting by age 3. So over and over, they were told that I was smart enough to know better. And I heard that a lot too as a child, but I still have yet to figure out what I was supposed to know. They didn't realize that my behavior wasn't a choice. I could not do what they expected, and I couldn't tell them what was hard or why. I didn't have the social or emotional language. There was a lot more going on inside than I could communicate. I couldn't say but I can clearly remember what it was like and how it felt. It took 20 years, but through AAC, I've gained a voice, and now I can communicate my experiences. So, why do I speak more one day you see me and then not on the next? Why do I speak more in some situations than in others? Why are some things easier to communicate verbally? Well, I don't think in words. I don't think in pictures or numbers either. How I do think is something I've not yet figured out how to explain at all. Language takes a lot of energy. It's like translating everything I hear and everything I say. My communication is affected by situations that put additional demand on my ability to process. So basically, if I'm too busy processing what is happening around me or inside of me, which could be physical or emotional, it becomes much harder to communicate. So there's a few clues that I'm no more than I'm saying. The most common one is that I will say hold on or no to everything you say, whether it's a question or not. If I'm, especially in my wheelchair or walking, it depends, but if I'm going around holding my ears or stimming, especially my fingers, if I start a sentence or a question saying and I'll do it for a long time, or I'll keep repeating the first word. Anytime I'm frustrated, and you will know if I'm frustrated, I'm not communicating well. And choppy or kind of non-standard language. So it's like been hard for me to sort of capture and remember when this happens, even though it's all the time. But the one I remember a lot is I've said the airport for the mail instead of the post office, or something like I wish I'll have the mail yesterday, to say that I didn't pick up my mail, but I hope there's something waiting in there because I really like getting the mail. So my mom and my family in general just they've just understand what I mean with those things. I've always loved the picture here on the right. I wish I could find the source to attribute it, but I can't. This is part of my IEP during my 3rd grade year, which was also my 3rd year in the gifted program. You can probably read the text pretty well, but I'm just going to read the last paragraph, the notes from my classroom teacher. Lydia displays average learning characteristics. Her talents are well hidden and often cause for concern. As her communication and arts teacher expressed, Lydia has quite a few missed assignments and absences. She's capable of enrichment, but she's not completing the general assignments. I question whether she should be allowed to do the extra activity. And yes, the run-on sentence is real. During GATE, which is our gifted pull-out periods, Lydia can be quite sure of how she wants to do a project, quite sure when she'll do it, and she takes her good old time. The work is adequate, but could be done more efficiently if she took suggestions. Lydia needs to be told what is expected, but she is manageable. I don't remember how or why I saw this directly at that time. I was 9. It's not like my parents came home and handed it to me, but I saw it somehow. And what I can tell you now is how it felt. I was so angry. My teacher wrote things that were not true, which is always a thing with me. I had never missed or turned in a late homework assignment. Not that year, not any year, all the way up through grad school. The comment from my gifted teacher about taking my good old time made me feel ashamed and embarrassed. I did not want to go back in that room with that teacher. It's the word manageable that still hurts. My cat is helping me. I'm sorry. Get down, please. Okay, the word manageable that still hurts, seeing the word at age 9 was the start of 15 years of anxiety about saying something wrong, doing something wrong, or missing a cue that somebody really didn't want me to be there. When I was in 3rd grade, I couldn't tell you any of that. Could not communicate my fears, my emotions, anxiety. I really didn't show much emotion at all, especially if somebody hurt my feelings. And I didn't ask my mom for help with things, even if I needed it. If you had known me, you would have thought I was completely unaware of how others thought of me, or even that my behavior could affect others. Please remember before you talk about a child in front of them. Even if you think you're hiding the real meaning, think before you put something online thinking that they'll never be able to use social media. Even when you're speaking in private, the words you choose influence what you think and how you feel about us. We are so much more aware of all of it than you might think. Here's what I wish I could have said at different points in my childhood. I refuse food because my brain doesn't see it as something to eat. It's like somebody asking you to eat your shoes. I hate the gym. I used to freeze and hide in the corner because people are moving everywhere and the noise echoes. When I get overwhelmed, my body just does not work like I want it to. It hurts my feelings if you say I'm being difficult. When I'm frustrated at somebody who's trying to help me, it isn't about that person. It's about not knowing how to communicate what I need. If I misunderstand a situation or misjudge the best actions to take, it is not because I'm selfish, thoughtless, or lying. I started typing at age 10 in 1998, before my mom even had an email address. For years, I asked her to get one, and she'd say, "Why?" And I'd say, "I want to tell you things." She was like, "I'm right here. Tell me." After so many years, getting to know me by what I could express verbally, it was hard for her to imagine how much she was missing. A few years ago, after I'd given a presentation, she was talking to another autism parent, and she said to them, "I really didn't know my own kid." Because I have speech, very few of my service providers encouraged me to type. From ages 22 to 24, my home-based autism waiver services were directed by a behavior therapist who believed my typing was just a way to get attention. She even took the liberty to write into my service plan. We had that removed, but I was too uncomfortable to type for them for the most part after that. We had an incident with a direct care worker blatantly breaking my privacy in front of me, but when my mom and I reported to the BOC, she said I should have spoken up if I was uncomfortable. They said that because of my communication limitations, my story was not reliable. The next time my service plan was updated, it included a goal about, first it said telling the truth, which my mom didn't like that. And so they changed it to accurately reporting events and experiences. So what does the AAC look like for me today? It's a combination of things. My sort of standard that I've used for years is I have an iPad mini with the keyboard app by Assistive Wear, which I love, and a Sense Buddy case because it has a strap, which is crucial or I will lose it constantly. I also have a separate Bluetooth keyboard I use sometimes. Depending on the situation, I'm been considered medically homebound since April of 2016. So I do use my laptop sometimes and my phone sometimes, but it is a lot harder to type on. I do mostly typing with some visual supports. I like using texts and emails. I often type and then read my own words out loud. And a lot of that comes from some of the things said about wanting attention for it. So I prefer it blending in. I will say I'll tell you later a lot. So there can be a delay after something happens, but before I can communicate about it. I often wait until I'm home or back in the car rather than typing in the moment. Sometimes typing about something actually helps me to process and make sense of it. Because my disease keeps progressing, I've had to adapt. So larger, brighter keyboards with more contrast have made it easier to see. And adding a delay between my touch of the key and when the screen actually selects the key has done a lot to reduce mistakes and frustration. Over time, my verbal communication has gotten better since I've really been typing. If I've typed something many times, and also typing helps me to make sense of things, then I can almost read the words from my mind. It isn't always reliable, and it does take more energy and focus. So in 2012, I lost my autism waiver services because my health was making it too difficult for me to participate in therapy and go out in the community. There was no appropriate support options for my needs at that time. So I spent over a year in a nursing home. You can kind of see my room on the left. I don't know if it reverses for you. It's the blue outline. I did not do well at all there at first, but I decided to make use of the time that I was there and pursued my master's in English and creative writing. Even if I never left the facility, I decided that I had to work toward a future beyond the hospital bed. I graduated with a 4.0. And while my academics were just as strong in high school and college, I had constant social, emotional, and communication issues. I was removed from student teaching after 2 weeks in college because of what they said was inability to connect with students and communicate effectively with other adults. And only the department chair knew of my diagnosis at that time, so I was not permitted to tell anyone. In graduate school, though, I not only worked through typing, but all of my communication with staff, professors, other students was typed. So one of the best things I ever did. I learned skills that made it possible for me to do professional editing work and writing as well. I also got a huge confidence boost from the positive interaction with staff and connecting with other students. The workload gave me almost a total distraction from the nursing home. There were times I didn't ever know if I'd get to leave, but I did not want my circumstances to impact my dreams for the future. Since 2016, I have received intensive in-home medical services. There's a lot of communication that has to happen with just the most immediate supports. My overnight nurses, my aide, in-home palliative care, home-based OT, service coordinator, doctors. All of those people have adapted to primarily texting or email. I have really good relationships with them, and that means more independence. I still don't understand why I had to fight for my needs to be recognized in the world of autism services, and yet my current supports, most of whom have little to no experience with autism, are incredibly accepting and accommodating. I find communication with doctors still to be the hardest. Sometimes I have trouble figuring out what my body's feeling. Other times I know what I feel, but I can't find the words for it. I've also had issues with doctors who thought I was making up my symptoms, which means I still have severe anxiety with new doctors, especially in the ER. I've learned that telling them that I have autism isn't very helpful. I have a pink sheet. It's a half sheet with handout. That it gives me a quick way to tell the team what my autism means for them in that moment, by explaining some of my sensory issues, communication issues, and behaviors they might see. I try to give them reasons for how I act before they have a chance to make other assumptions. For example, it asks that only one person touches me at a time, and explains that my actual emotion or experience may not match my behavior, which can include pain. It also explains that I have an incredible memory and can communicate the facts of my medical history, but verbal communication can be a challenge. There are times it's better to use my iPad to type. My communication method varies for outpatient appointments. Most often, like I'm going to see my PCP, which I see him quite a lot. I keep my current medication list on my iPad. I use a lot of color coding in general. I like to bring typed notes or letter. If it's my PCP, he often wants a copy or looks at it on and off. But then with my mom there, we can talk about it. I've also learned that photos really are worth 1,000 typed words, and it saves energy for me and time for the doctors. Typing has helped me to find my creativity and use it as a way to communicate. This is the introduction to a chapter of my master's thesis about changing misconceptions about autism. The details in the piece are mostly true, but they did not happen on the same day, or it didn't even come from one person. So my name is Inconsiderate. I spend most of recess on a curb at the edge of the playground, using a pointy piece of mulch to pick the dirt out of all the places it's collected in the crevices of my sneakers. I heard the janitor talking about his sore back. I've seen him mopping the floors in the classrooms day after day. I don't want my shoes to track dirt into school and make more work for him. So focused on my shoes that I miss the whistle. There's a firm tap on my shoulder, and grown-up legs suddenly appear next to me. I look up to see the face attached to the legs. Everyone else is lined up. You're picking at your nasty shoes. We're all waiting for you. You're inconsiderate. I stand up and make my way to the end of the line. But I'm pretty sure the kids aren't very excited about the math test waiting for us inside. It wasn't just my writing that allowed me to find my creativity. I like to make things, especially gifts that I give. I always start from scratch. So the framed cross stitch is my best friend's wedding gift. I started with just white fabric and black thread, and I had printed a page from an old hymnal, and that was the hymn they sang at the wedding. Until a few years ago, I had no idea that I was creative. No one told me I was, so I didn't know. Now that creativity is a much bigger part of my life, I understand why it was so hard for me to be happy. My page is stuck. Okay. So, when did you think about introducing a verbal individual to AAC? It's not about how much they can say. It is about how much is still stuck inside. If AAC continues to be seen as a last resort, a person might never get a chance to show you how much their speech limits their ability to communicate and express themselves. AAC has changed my life in so many ways. Day to day for others, it's easy for others to overlook. But one of the biggest things has been my sense of self. I know what I like, I know what my gifts are, and I'm confident in who I am. This image combines a photo of me that someone else took with a poem I wrote and some of my own graphics work. I was standing in front of a word wall at the Children's Museum in Pittsburgh. The word wall screen reflects your image in real time. So you can see yourself moving around, and then the letters kind of rain down. They settle on your image, and slowly they start to collect and make words, and sometimes even build sentences. I love the photo because the words were making me happy. The picture brings together some of the best ways that typing has changed my world. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Chloe.
Hi everyone, my name's Chloe Rothschild, and I'm gonna talk to you about my journey with AAC. A little bit about me. I'm 25 years old. I have autism, a vision impairment, and chronic health conditions. I'm on a mission to educate people about autism so they can help people who have autism better. I have some part-time jobs. I'm an advocate, writer, and presenter. I serve on the Ohio Center for Autism and Low Incidence Advisory Board, and I communicate both verbally, through writing, typing, by using your device, and low-tech visual AAC supports boards. The beginning. I was born 7 weeks early. It was an emergency C-section. I was a preemie weighing 4 pounds 5 ounces. I did not know how to suck and was allergic to formula. I cried and screamed a lot. I had normal development. I talked on time and reached my developmental milestones. Although, when I was 2 years old, the pediatrician asked my mom if I could say 3 words, and before my mom could answer, I said, "I do that." Although, even with this being said, I still would do things like say the alphabet, but then not say it again. People would say this is because I was choosing not to, or was a preschooler. Here I am at 20 months old, and I want you to notice some of these things. My preoccupation with the sidewalk chalk, delays in not following directions, and delayed echolalia.
Can you say Zoe? How about Zoe? Why don't you stand up and show us the other? Show us Zoe. And I'll let you look at the same flowers. Show us Zoe. Show us your shirt. Stand up. You have to stand up and can't see. Can I see your shirt? Show me Zoe's rings. Zoe's rings, her earrings.
So with that being said, this was in May of 1994. I was verbal and a girl. I was not diagnosed with autism, but if you can see this video now, you can see it. If you know autism. The red flags that something was different. The concerns. I was falling more than a typical toddler. We found out that I was visually impaired. I was terrified of the wind. The preschool told my parents that I didn't play with other kids. I learned and could recite the alphabet, but then couldn't. I didn't seem to have interest in playing with other kids. Before I started typing, I had written notes as a form of communication before, but once had a teacher tell me to just tell her. This really hurt, especially when she said, tell me or put it in the recycling bin and go to the cafeteria. It hurt so bad. When I started typing and using AAC, it was after I had been traumatized at a summer camp for individuals with special needs. I was diagnosed with PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. My iPad was a huge key in helping me and others help me pick up the pieces and move past this. It helped me communicate what happened and helped me find my words and trust again. There's always obstacles or road bumps in life. People saying, just tell me, self-conscious and nervous about being judged and what others would think because I'm so verbal. Others not understanding, typing for some people and at some places and not others. I'm not a robot. A whole new world was found. I was typing and writing things that were profound, things that I had never said before. I started writing notes when I was in the 7th or 8th grade, so 13 or 14. I started typing on an iPad at the age of 18, almost 19, and I'm 25 now. It opened up a way for me to communicate my wants, needs, likes, dislikes, hopes, wishes, dreams, goals, and feelings in an easier way, and it ensures that I can do this, even when it is hard to find words, and it's having a new tool. Some tools I use. I started with Go Talk Rocket, which used to be called My Voice AAC. I now use Proloquo to Go and an AMDI adapter case because it can have a strap, speakers, built-in stand, and because I'm pretty tough on iPads because it goes everywhere with me, and I've done really well with the AMDI case. And the tempered glass screen protectors. Typing in picture folder grid mode, I use both. Emails, texting, and Facebook messages. I also see a speech therapist weekly. This wasn't always the case. Typing and communicating and working on these skills is a goal for me. It's a journey, and I've realized that nothing is, it stopped my word there. But I also want to say that you'll see in the video here, more recently, I've started to use low-tech AAC communication boards, which there's 2 buttons in the top right, 2 little squares in the top right, 2 little squares in the right left, and then spread out over the page, there's anywhere from 9 to 13 choice squares with black outlines and pictures in them. This has been really helpful, especially because I was diagnosed as having a closed head injury, a mild closed head injury, which a concussion falls under, after I hit my head while opening the car door at the end of April. The use of Proloquo. For me, AAC, such as Proloquo, serves as a tool to help me process. Programming it allows me to get my thoughts into words and process the language better. Serves as a tool for preparing me for communicating in real time. Helps me start conversations, helps me gather my thoughts, and it helps me be able to advocate for myself without getting upset. It helps in lieu of behaviors. It's being proactive. It's visual. I need visuals in specific folders. How typing has helped. Introducing to a new person. Communicating that I'm overwhelmed or want a break. Making choices. Typing to doctors. Communicating during meetings. Typing out how I'm feeling. Using when frustrated or in a meltdown. And most of all, being proactive. Self-advocacy. An example. There are many times when I need accommodations to get me access to an activity or event. Meetings, for example, are hard for me. I get anxious, overwhelmed, and frustrated. It's hard to get my words and thoughts out. Knowing this ahead of time, we make a plan and strategy for support during the meeting. So we focus on what I could do. Listen and type things when needed. My therapist spoke on my behalf and I texted her. Also, any attempt at expressing feeling overwhelmed or like I needed a break was accepted. I don't like missing out on things, but sometimes I have to, or I just escalate. Now I can use my iPad and Proloquo to go to type with some prompting and encouragement, and some verbal words. Here just gives you a look at what meeting 2 happened. Meeting 1 was not great. I kept typing, people leave, no meeting. At meeting 2, I did amazing. Here's an example of introduction. I navigated to Proloquo when needed while in a different app, doing an activity in speech therapy to tell my therapist that I had something to tell her. This was huge. Before I programmed an anxious folder on my iPad, I got anxious so quickly, but by the time I typed, I was too frustrated and engaged in a behavior. I'm one of the first people to think about and text my providers, how can we change this? I created a folder, and with this folder, 1 week later, I was able to walk up to my therapist and press, I feel anxious, and the folder came up, and I picked, I want Spio shirt, which is a deep pressure shirt. Went to the bathroom, put it on, came back, and was fine. That was it. Hurt and pain. Pain is hard for me to communicate, even with my iPad. It is such an abstract concept. Sometimes now I can even type to doctors. The role, alternate forms of communication, play in friendships and mentoring. Allow me to connect with and talk with my friends in a way that is easiest for us. Allow me to be social in a way that works for me and, quite honestly, most of my friends. And has given me friendships that I likely would not have had otherwise. Mentoring has changed my life and assured me hope at a time when I was starting to lose it. Here's me at speech therapy.
That was no. When your friend told you something. There were 2. Oh, 2 that was one. Or when my friend said, I love you, I could say, how would you say it nicely without saying, I don't love you? Because that's kind of rude and snarky. It is. So what could you say instead? Let's think of a different way. I'm glad we're friends. Or it's nice to know you too. Probably not know you. I like the first response better. We're more acquaintances than friends because we haven't seen each other in so long. So that kind of makes me wonder, like, why does he say he loves me when?
That was the gist of that one. Here's one of my favorite videos, and this was recent. It was just taken last week.
I feel my head all right.
I'm going to pause it just so you can see the board. See, in the top left, there's an I feel, my head. We also have one for stomach and neck. And then okay, not okay. And then dizzy, aching, focused, stuck, fast, lightheaded, blank, distracted, scattered, all right, uncomfortable, comfortable, and tired.
Look at all the choices. Tell me what each one means.
Dizzy, round and round. Again, it aches, hurts. Lightheaded, fall back. Normal, all right, normal. Uncomfortable, ow. Blank, thinking nothing. Nothing's there. Blank erase board. Focus, pay attention. Stuck. In the mud, one thing perseverated. Comfortable. Good, okay feeling means same as all right. Distracted, thinking about one other thing. Scattered, thinking about so many things. Tired, I need sleep. Fast. It's just thinking very, very, very fast. It's not stopping. That's right. Good job, Chloe.
Here is communicating through frustration. As you can see, I'm agitated.
Jamie.
I'm getting annoyed because I clicked the wrong person's name.
The wrong one. Oops. Miss Tracy. Oops. Miss Katie.
Yes.
I feel Impatient. I think you are impatient. I feel over it.
And here's how you can reach both of us at our blogs, emails, or website. And now for a minute, I'm going to share with you a glimpse at my device. One other thing to know about me is that I always will say, I don't know, even when I know. And sometimes I wonder, will people ever know how much I really know? Here is what my device looks like from the screen. Thanks for being patient. This is very new to me to be able to do this. Okay. I use Proloco to go. Put it to home. This is my home screen. I used to use a 9 button, and then in fall 2017, my speech therapist and I decided it wasn't working, and we switched over. All About Me it's all color-coded. The people, these are all the people in my family, they're all color-coded. This is all color-coded based on where I see them. So the people I see at the behavior center are all pink. The people I see at the therapy center are all green. For the swim therapist is blue. Caregivers, purple, etc. My doctors, they're all color-coded based on where they are. Familiar people are all one color. Here's one of my favorite parts. And as you will see, I have what's called snapback on. So which means that it snaps back to the home screen. All of the top ones are green, then there's red, and then there's the sensory choices. Proprioceptive or deep pressure, vestibular, auditory, visual, oral, and then tactile. And they all have their own color. And then it goes into I need. And there's all different options. And then it goes into I hurt. And there's all the body parts here. And then I can tell you how it hurts. The yellow ones are describing words. Then there's the red. Then there's this. And this is right in progress right now. Where, for example, because I have this device, I'm able to tell you that it hurts above my eyes or between my ears. How often?
Something hurts. It's
for example,
my head.
How does it feel?
Aching pain.
And this does not snap back so that I can do this. Between. That I can tell you it's between my ears. If I can find ears.
My ear.
And then
I
know zones of regulation, so these are all color coordinated based on zones. And then a body check, which is based on interoception. If you don't know it, Google it by Kelly Mahler. We've incorporated that into my device, all the zones, and then things I like, that's all color coded. Games I like, activities I like, food, and then that I'm losing control.
I'm losing control and need help.
And self-advocacy. For example, a trigger for me can be that when people just don't understand.
I'm an adult. I can choose what I like. Just like you and other people without disabilities can. I know it may not make sense to you, but it makes sense to me.
I can say things like that, and
please text and call Mom and Dad. I need some space. Please stop.
I have a voice.
I'm typing. It takes longer.
I have a lot to say. This helps me say it. I can even ask you things, such as,
what did you do last night?
What did you do last night? What's your favorite ice cream? And I can also type. I have a voice, and that, my friend, is very important. I want to thank you for being here. And that's my presentation.
Chloe,
Yeah.
well, can you leave the thing up with our contact?
Yeah, hold on.
If you want to ask us or contact us or anything, we're both really involved in a lot of advocacy stuff. We do a lot. I don't know how much Chloe would be able to do the Slack channel right now because of her head, and my health issues are day to day. So,
I'm not able to do Slack right now. This is even going against what I'm supposed to be doing. But I did it because I have dedication when it comes to doing this.
And in the future, though, I'm sure that you will get back to people, and
that's my hope.
Yeah, and I can't always guarantee a certain day of like responding today or tomorrow, but we still like to
sorry.
That's okay.
Get it there.
I'm sorry, it's so dark here.
It's fine.
I actually kept my lights on.
We really appreciate you guys sharing your experience and your stories and your insights to give everybody kind of a better idea and a better understanding. So thank you very much for advocating for yourself and thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I'll mute myself so that Chloe's screen with their contact information shows. But thank you so much. Thanks for Melissa for all of this and for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks to both for being part of it. You can make note of their contact information here and reach out to them. And if you have questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. Thank you both for presenting with us today. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys another time.
Thanks.